Okay. Alright, Game Cooker US Rocks VR here. Playing some Hunter Primal. And I don't think I changed the coloring on this yet, did I? I can't seem to get on the stream here. What is going on? What's up, Average? Okay, I think I hear my voice, but it doesn't seem very loud in the stream. Okay, I think it's okay now. Alright, well, I'm assuming it's okay. I hear my voice, so it's not super loud though, but that's fine. Well, how's everyone doing today? Feel free to join in the hunt if you have the game, the Hunter Primal. Hop on the server, it's open. I'm not having the best day possible today. I won't go into detail. I mean, it's not tragic or anything, but I don't know. I guess it's just kind of like a mix of depression and some frustrations I'm having in life. I guess that's how I could sum it up. Again, nothing tragic, but so I'm a little kind of like down, I guess you could say. I'm trying to get myself up. I wasn't going to get on because I was just like, you know, when you get in those moods where you want to do something, but yet you don't have the drive to do it, you know? So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to force myself. So that's what I did. I forced myself. So here I am. Hopefully things will pick up from here. Oh, you want to be like that, huh? Oh, I got two. Nice. Oh, who's that? Somebody here. So, I don't know what I want to talk about today. I don't know if I'm going to get really heavy into politics or anything, but I did want to bring up the fact that 9/11 is coming up. So let's remember our fallen fellow Americans and others who lost their life on that day. And let us not forget the evil of terrorism in all its forms, which includes what is happening in our cities in America. When you are harassing and intimidating fellow Americans, that's not only considered oppression, but it is a form of terrorism. Because, you know, what is going to stop you from going beyond that point? I mean, if you're already basically throwing things at people and interrupting them while they're eating and drinking their drinks and eating their food, I mean, how, in any situation, especially in America, where we are free, everybody's free, everyone, all people are free, and everyone, all people in America have civil rights. So, how in a country like that can you have the audacity and justify the behavior that's going on right now in the cities, where they are destroying other people's livelihoods, other people's property, irregardless of what your, well, even if the argument was valid, which it is not, okay, because the United States is not inherently racist. That's just 100% false. I mean, I'm 50 years old now. I mean, now I was born right after the Civil Rights Act was passed, so I wasn't alive for, you know, to see Martin Luther King and all them guys, but I was just right after it. But from ever since I was a kid growing up, I mean, I've never seen any blatant acts of racism. You know, never seen any violence. Well, at least up until 2020 and the Black Lives Matter, right? Because that's where it started. You know, which is kind of weird. Like, you know, they're the ones who are actually, and Antifa and some other groups. There's more than just Black Lives Matter. It's not just them. There's several other groups that also participate in the riots. It wasn't until those groups actually came forward and started like harassing and destroying things. You know, before them, we were going along just fine. Everybody was getting along. You know, it wasn't until these leftists came in and started like teaching people stuff that just is not true. I don't even know how it even got hold, to be honest with you. Hey, what's up, Herky? I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, I don't know. It's just strange. I imagine that people are out of touch with the cities, you know, maybe because they don't live in the cities. All these students at colleges who are being taught this false information, because that's pretty much where it started. That's where they gained traction, by teaching this alternate history and everything's racist kind of mentality. So let's just not forget 9/11. That's all. Okay, and that we need to fight back against terrorism in all of its forms. Period. Doesn't matter. Domestic or foreign. We have to fight back. I did want to bring up one thing though that I was hearing over the past couple of years and kind of like looking into. Is this idea that everything's racist. You know, like all Western culture is racist. Our language is racist. Because now there's a push at some of the colleges where they're going to try to like ignore American Standard English, which is basically our national, national language or whatever. So they're going to basically say, screw it. You can write whatever you want. You can write however you want to write, you know. It's like, doesn't have to be any standard, you know. And basically their argument is that when immigrants come here, they don't know the English language well, and they have a disadvantage when they go to college. And that's why they're doing that. Like, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. Okay. First of all, you're arguing for immigrants above Americans. Okay? Number one, Americans should have precedence over immigrants. I think anybody in any country would agree to that, who isn't like crazy in the head. Okay? You know, immigrants, whoa, there's a Rex. Immigrants, we give them the privilege to come here and make a life for themselves. That's fine. I mean, I got immigrants in my family. I'm married to an immigrant. So, you know, no foul there. I don't really care. Right? So, but again, you're going to lower the standards of American English for the sake of immigrants who don't know English very well. Now just think about that. Like, that's one of the most ridiculous arguments I ever heard. Oh, somebody already hit him. This guy's gonna get me killed. This guy's got hacks. He's gonna make my game. He's gonna make my game crash. He doesn't want to die, huh? So anyway, that's what they want to do with our English, right? Um, so they basically want to just like throw out the English standard of English writing for the sake of people that don't know English very well. And I'm like thinking, well, what is college for? Right? So if somebody like my wife when she came here, she took classes, like pre-college classes to bring her up to speed on her English, right? So wow, he's still running away, huh? But that's not even the point. Like when somebody comes here as an immigrant, what what entitlement do they have to get like an immediate like thrust from like here all the way up to here? Like like what gives them the right? What gives them Where's the justification for that right? I mean, just because they're immigrants? Like, huh? I mean, that's crazy. Like, that's so weird. Like, that makes no sense. College is supposed to be what we used to call higher education, right? Higher education. What does that mean? Does that mean when kids go to college, we treat them like little kids? I mean, you know, when people go to college, they're supposed to be ready to go to college. That's why it's called higher education, you know? And and let's say if you didn't do well, if you weren't that good at English or you weren't good at math, anybody, whether you're immigrant or American, well, then you wouldn't go to college, or you would take it slower, or you would go to a trade school, right, and learn how to be an auto mechanic or a carpenter or an electrician or, whatever, some other trade, right, where your aptitude is more in line with your, I guess intelligence, thinking, whatever you want to call it, right? So, where did that Rex go? Oh, there it is. But why should we let immigrants come here and say, well, you know what, forget about English rules. Throw them out. You can write your paper however you want to write it. It doesn't matter if it's complete gibberish. I mean, that's just crazy. Now, you might think I'm exaggerating. But I mean, from what I read, that's basically what they're saying. You can write, as long as you can get your point across, then that's okay with us. You're going to pass. You're going to get a good grade. We're not going to penalize you for that. And I'm like going in my head, man, no wonder there's so many journalists that seem to like have no clue what they're doing. I mean, college is not something that was made for everyone. Like this, I noticed that past 20 years, that's what people, these liberals and extreme leftists, they've been pushing like college, like Bernie, free college for everyone, Like, first of all, who says everyone has to go to college? You know what I'm saying? Like, where did that rule come in? And where's the justification for that? What, because everything's like done on computers now? I mean, that's kind of silly. That's not actually true. Everything isn't done on computers. I mean, it's true that we use computers a lot, like even at the cash register at the store. I mean, you could say that they're computers. But, in order to work at Wawa, you really don't need to know how to use a computer, just basic stuff, right? Like a calculator. Um, and I know that's not a good example of a good job, right? But the problem is that these same people who are saying you need degrees say that you need degrees to do things. Like, this is something I was also noticing over the years, right? Because I was thinking to myself, man, I'm never going to be able to get a job and move up if I need a degree for everything. I mean, that's kind of something that keeps people down, you know? And it also like sets a standard where you're saying that people with degrees are smart and people without degrees are dumb. And that couldn't be farther from the truth, you know? That could not be farther from the truth. I mean, my grandfather never went to college. You know, he grew up on a farm, of course, but he was a very smart guy. Like, I mean, every time there was a problem on the farm, like, I mean, you know, this is mechanical stuff, obviously, but anytime anything went wrong on the farm, he would try to fix it himself. And like in most cases, he would figure it out. Like he would think up something and go, okay, I know how to fix that. Like, you know, he didn't call people in, you know, for every little thing that went wrong. So he was really sharp that way, you know. And you know, that's intelligence. Whether people don't want to believe that or not, that's intelligence. You know, same thing with my wife. You know, she grew up in the Philippines. She only has a high school education. No real English kind of stuff. I mean, she knows how to speak English now since she's been here so long, but she's not like she doesn't know a lot of things about the American culture still. You know, I have to explain things to her every once in a while because she doesn't understand. But like she's the same way. If there's a problem, like she'll just like fix it. And I'm like going, man, that's pretty good. I would never thought of that, you know? So, you know, intelligence is all relative to what you're doing, you know? It is true that everyone can get a degree, but is it good for everyone to get a degree? Is it really a good investment? Like that just doesn't make any sense to me because like in countries like Sweden, I think it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, where they have like free college or whatever you want to say. I guess it's free college. They won't let you take certain majors if they're already flooded in the market. Like, you know, I don't know. Let's just say you wanted to get a degree as a nurse. And let's just say they had too many nurses. Like, the market's full of nurses. And you go to the college and say, okay, I want to be a nurse. I want to take that major, nursing. Well, if the market's flooded, then they're either going to tell you there or send you a letter stating that we cannot approve you at this time to go to college to be a nurse. um, now, now they will let you pay out of your own pocket. Like if you want to be a nurse, fine, then you'll have to pay out of your own pocket. So even in countries where there's quote unquote free college, you know, there's limitations to that privilege, you know what I'm saying? It's not all it's cracked up to be. So if you're late to the game, then you're going to be stuck getting a degree anyway in something that you might not want to do, you know? Because you better believe everyone's taking the engineering degrees. Everyone's taking probably the medical degrees. Everyone's probably taking the lawyer degrees. I mean, so, you know, after a while, like any new person that's turning 18 or coming out of high school, they're going to be getting all the scraps. You know what I'm saying? Unless you want to pay out of your own pocket. So, I wanted to talk about this critical race theory. I don't know what you guys heard of, if you guys heard of it before. But it's something that liberal colleges are really pushing. Like in every single college. It's crazy. But basically, I mean, I'm gonna give you a basic definition of it. He ain't gonna make it. He must have unlimited stamina. Yeah, he's got unlimited stamina. He's a cheat. That's probably why we can't kill these things. I can't help him because he won't stop. Anyway, if you don't know what critical race theory is, here comes another one. Whoa. Whoa, man, another one. Glad they're going after him. Seemingly. I don't know why. Anyway, you can look up critical race theory. And why it's so dangerous. But in a nutshell, it basically, critical race theory is not what you would think it is. Like when we hear the term critical, we usually think of like, you know, critical thinking, you know, critical writing, like as like when you're critically thinking, you think deeper about a subject, you know? Like you want to make sure that you're using reason and logic, you know what I'm saying? Or critical writing, you would think in your mind that that means, oh, trying to write your best, you know, making sure that you're putting all the things that need to be in there to make it a relative piece of writing, you know what I'm saying? But that's not what they're talking about. Their critical race theory basically looks for racism in everything. Okay, that's basically what it means in basic terms. Sorry about that. What's up, Blue Rex, Herkies? Did you miss anything? Not really. Just So basically, critical race theory wants to try to seek out racism in everything, okay? And that means every facet of life, right? So for instance, when it comes to like writing, right? They don't want you to use any words that could potentially be racist. Now, here's the kicker though, right? It's not, again, what you would think, right? Like, if I wrote a paper about black people, right? Let's just say, and I was like saying, oh, black people, man, they're so blah 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 blah, you know, and I'm using every term that I can think of to demean them. Okay? Now anybody who would read an article like that would be like, well, that's racism, right? But these guys really hurt my ears. Right. So pretty much anyone would say yes, that would be kind of a racist article, right? But again, that's not what they're seeking. Okay? It includes that, I guess, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about so far extreme that like if you were say you were to write a story, right? I'm surprised that they haven't come down on Quentin Tarantino because he does this a lot in his movies, right? But apparently, I guess they can't touch him because he's got his following now. So, but mind you, I'm sure they'll find some way to attack him eventually. So, let's take old literature, right? Where somebody wrote a story, right? That was back in, say the early 1900s or, whatever, the late 1800s. And, there was, it was a story about this person and that person and or this particular situation. And, it was in America, and the author was just writing the story based upon the times that he's either writing about or that he lived in, right? So let's say in this story, the N word, and let's say the word, let's say Negro, okay, that's not really a bad word. I mean, it is what it is. Or the other N word, right, with the Nigger, right, which I won't say. Let's say that those words were used in the story, right? Just not directed at anyone per se. Like the author wasn't trying to come across as like personally attacking any particular group, but in the story, the whatever antagonists, protagonists, whatever, they had their dialogues, and those words were being used. Well, according to critical race theorists, that literature needs to be burned, right? And forever forgotten in history. Okay? Just because the words were used, okay? They're just in a story sense, right? So all the author was doing was depicting a story, and this is the interactions that took place. It doesn't have anything to do with like attacking one group over another. It's just a story. So that's one thing they seek to do. Now the other thing that they seek to do, which is even more devious and cynical and evil, is to redefine terms. Right? Redefine terms as to make them racist terms now. So like the word black, okay? Like if you say I believe in magic, but I don't use black magic, I use white magic because black magic is bad. Right? Well, to critical race theorists, saying that magic is black that's racist. Because you're relating black to something that's evil, even though in this particular case, white magic and black magic are both evil, okay? But that's a whole nother story. Okay, but you understand my point. So if you use the word black, probably to critical race theorists, the only way you could use it is when you're talking about a color. Period. Like I'm painting my wall black. Okay? But if you use it in any other way that it implies something evil or bad, then it's racist. Okay? Right, 9/11. That's what I was talking about earlier. Yep. Let's remember 9/11. So nice. So they seek to redefine terms, right? Now most people when they say black magic, they're not thinking about black people, right? It's not even like it's not even in the mind like when you talk about black magic, right? So no relationship to people. It's a totally separate thing. Now the reason why, say in this particular example, black magic would be a justified term, is because in the Bible, and even I guess in Islam, although I don't know for sure about Islam, and a lot of other religions, when you talk about God, right, a good deity, right, they're usually associated with what? They're associated with light, right? Brightness, you know? So, and the reason for that is because in a lot of these religious books, the devil is always deemed as the guy that's on the dark side, right? So, darkness versus light, right? So, when you say black magic, it relates to dark magic because why? Because black is dark, right? So, it's a fitting term. Now, you could say dark magic, but how is that any different from saying black magic? I mean, you're still talking about the word dark, right? I mean, so to me, it wouldn't be any different. But so it's justified to use terms as dark as black because it's the opposite of white and light, right? So God, right? God, Jesus, whatever, in the Bible, in the Quran, and even like I think like other Hinduism, you know, there's gods in Hinduism who, you know, they talk about the gods of light or whatever the case is. You know, I don't know too much about it, but in the most traditional sense across the world, okay, this isn't just Western thinking, right? Even in the Asian folklore, mythology, whatever, you know, you have dark versus light, you know, whatever, these different factions, right? So this is attack on language. This is attack on Western culture. This is attack on religion. Okay, so this is really what the underlying goal is of critical race theorists. It has nothing to do with racism. Okay, that's their covering of it, right? But if you really examine it, right, what is this going to do? Critical race theory. It's going to be critical of religion. It's going to be critical of art, artistic expression, right? Because now you won't be able to draw things you want to draw. You won't be able to write stories that you want to write. You won't be able to make games that you want to make, right? Because if they're redefining terms, then what what your idea you might like, and it might be good and translatable to a game or to a story or to a movie or to a picture or whatever the case is, right? So, but critical race theory will say, no, you can't do that because that's offensive, that's racist. You know what I'm saying? So this is a very dangerous, a very dangerous ideology. Now they call it a theory, but it's really an ideology. You know, college professors are very clever on how they word things and term things. You know, like global warming, right? Prime example. When I was growing up, it was global warming. Oh my God, we're going to all catch on fire one day. You know, everything's going to turn to desert. I mean, I heard this ever since I was a kid, back in the 70s, right? That's a long time ago. So you think this whole climate thing is new? No. They've been crying about this for years. And they still have no proof. It's all just theory, still just conjecture. So, climate doomsday. So, so it used to be called global warming, right? So everyone was complaining because, oh, well, you've been telling us about global warming now for 20, 30 years, and everything seems the same to me. You know, like I lived in New Jersey most of my life, and the weather's exactly the same as it always been. It hasn't changed. You know, you have your little ups and downs where you might have more hurricanes hit one season, and then the next season less hurricanes hit. You know, but for the most part, it's all the same weather. We've been having the same weather. So they changed. Oh, good grief. So they've been changing global warming. They changed global warming to climate change. Okay? I wish these guys would stay away. They're too loud. I don't mind Herky. But too many guns going off at once. Hurts my ear. So they changed it from global warming to climate change. Now why do you think they did that? Because they have a different theory? No, same old argument. Nothing's different. But they changed it to climate change because you can't argue against it. Right? If somebody says the climate's changing, how would you argue against that? Like if you said, no, there's no climate change, and then all they got to do is bring up a couple little data graphs and say, look, see, the climate's changing. You're wrong. You're a climate denier. You know what I'm saying? Now you might say, well, you're simplifying it because there's more to it than just a few graphs. Well, no, there isn't. Because it's all conjecture. Okay? All this climate change doomsday, there's no evidence to back up saying that that will happen. Okay? There is climate changing. Okay? The Earth's climate's always changing. We can look back in history and see that it's gone up and down, up and down, up and down. Of course, these climate alarmists, they won't tell you all the details. Okay? They only show the evidence that fits their narrative. Remember that. They never show you all the facts. They never show you the discrepancies. You know? So, you know, you can believe what you want to believe. But I've been alive long enough and been hearing this long enough where I don't see any evidence of it. And all the stuff that I read, all the stuff I watched on YouTube, it still doesn't convince me. that there is this approach to climate doomsday where, everything's going to turn to deserts and there's going to be flooding everywhere and, all this nonsensical stuff. I mean, it's science fiction, really. Like science today, if you really look at it, they've adopted in their now mainstream teaching a lot of science fiction, right? So, where did the idea of multiple universes come from? Science fiction, right? But they actually teach that now as if, you know, it's a viable possibility, you know? Now again, you could say, well, how do you know there isn't? Well, I don't know, and no one will ever know. Because we will never travel far enough to ever see it in our entire existence. Okay? Even if the universe was going to last a trillion more years, we're going to be long gone before that. Because if the sun is going to die within 10 to 15 billion years, then, we're not even going to make it to the next galaxy. So, just think about that. So that's just more nonsensical teaching. And again, it's all an attack on religion. That's what that's Darwin's whole goal when he wrote the Origin of Species and favored races one over another, because that's what the original title was basically. He was seeking to try to explain everything without invoking God. Without evidence, mind you. He had no evidence. Okay? The only thing he had was adaptation. And that's got nothing to do with one species changing into an entirely different species. Like a horse changing into a pig. Or a fish changing into a rodent. That hurt. So, and even today, they don't even have proof. They don't have any proof. They got zero proof that one species can change into another. They can't do it in a lab. Got it in the wing. He's still coming. He's on a weird angle. There you go. They can't do it in a lab. We don't see it in nature. Somebody brought up a good point about that. Now we slaughter, I don't know, you can look it up on Google. It's been a little while since I looked it up, but we slaughter like, I don't know, some ridiculous number. Like, it's like 100 billion, I think. We slaughter like at least 100 billion animals every year. Oh goodness, turkey, stop shooting so much, dude. You gotta shoot like once. He's gotta aim, Herky. We raise and kill like over 100 billion animals every year on this planet. Now it could be more. I think I might have read like up to 400 billion, but I could be wrong about that. But I know it's some crazy, ridiculous amount, like exponentially higher than our population. Now, don't you think that if we're doing that every single year, if evolution was possible, that in the past, say, 100 years, one of those animals would have showed some evolution into another animal? You know, like a horse, you know, had a pig or a dog or whatever, you know, they say that the next one is. You know, they just make it up anyway. It's not even based on scientific medical evidence. Yeah, I know they use taxonomy, but that still taxonomy doesn't prove anything. Just because two animals have the same bone doesn't mean they're related. I mean, that's just kind of stupid. But again, I know the scientists are going to say, "Well, you're just dumb. We're the experts. You don't know what you're talking about." You know, that's their argument all the time. But nonetheless, I've never heard anyone dispute this. If we're killing 100 billion animals a year, then we should be seeing many examples of one animal changing into another. You know, like when a chicken lays an egg, a chicken doesn't come out, but a dinosaur, right? Or, because if you can have forward evolution, then why can't you have reverse evolution? I mean, it should work both ways. Same thing with a horse. Well, that's not really a good example because we don't raise that many horses. But we do raise lots of cows, pigs, cattle, you know, and other livestock. But the cow always has a cow. The chicken always has a chicken. Okay, because we're talking about probability here. Right? Probability. 100 billion animals killed every year. So that should increase the probability of an evolutionary jump, right? By a pretty good factor. But we never, ever seen that. Because that's the greatest experiment, if you think about it. The same thing with your jelly in the cupboard, you know? Or anything that you might can, you know, that's old. You know, when you open it up, it's still jelly. It didn't change into anything else. Now, I know it's supposed to be sterile, but people have found like old cans and old this and old that, you know, that did go rancid inside the can, and they didn't open up the can and see a mouse in there or a baby ducky, you know, or anything like that. So, you know, I know that's kind of I'm using hyperbole there a little bit, but you know, there's just no examples in nature of evolution. And I know that they keep saying stuff online, like I heard somebody say, oh, this particular bacteria evolved into this bacteria. And I'm like going, well, where's the evidence of that? You're just kind of saying it. But you're giving no evidence whatsoever. You know? When we already know that when a bacteria mutates, as we like to say, which is usually a negative thing. Mutations are always negative, okay? So just remember that. There's never really a positive mutation, okay? When a bacteria mutates, it actually loses genetic material. And that's why it's able to resist certain antibiotics. But what they don't tell you is that bacteria is weak. It's weaker than the regular bacteria. Okay? So they don't tell you that. They always leave that out. They never mention that. You know? So in actuality, it's not evolution. It's de-evolution. In other words, that bacteria will not last long. It will go extinct. That's why now what they do when anyone has a staph infection in the hospital, they don't keep them in the hospital anymore. In a lot of cases, they send them home. Go home. Because the hospital's sterile, right? So well, it's supposed to be. So what they do is when they clean, they use all these cleaning agents. They kill all the germs in the hospital, right? So you don't have an abundance of the good bacteria anymore. So in a lot of cases, they'll send these people home where they have all the bacteria that you live with every day, and that bacteria eventually will overtake the bad bacteria. Okay, and the staph infection will eventually die off. So I'm not saying in every single case, because some staph infections can be very, bad depending on the situation, but in most cases, okay? Because they found out, or that they finally acknowledged, that since the bacteria is weaker and the good bacteria can overtake it, then let the real bacteria thrive, and that will either destroy the bad bacteria, or it will the staph infection will just die off eventually because it can't compete against the good bacteria. So there's just a whole lot that these atheist scientists, that these people that follow the religion of science, in other words, everything has to be explained naturally, and that nothing. Oh, this guy's over there. Oh, well. They leave out a lot of details, and they just kind of make blanket statements with no real fact to back it up, because that's just what they teach in college. And everybody just takes for granted that since these scientists say what they say, that somehow it's all backed up by facts, and that's just actually not true. Not true. We've been getting played all these years. And I'm not anti-science. I love science. But I love science that you can actually prove. Not theory this, theory that, theory this, theory that, theory this, theory that. Which of course the scientists will say, well, you have to have theories, because without a theory, you can't do anything with your hypothesis, So, right, but if you already have evidence that evolution is not possible, then what is the point of building a theory based upon a theory that has no fact to back it up? What you're basically doing then is you are creating a theory, right? Trying to support something that is not factual, that we do not observe in the real world, right? That we can't prove in a lab. I mean, think about that for a second. So you're basically using a theory to explain a theory to explain a theory to explain a theory to explain a theory. It's like never ending. In order to fill all the holes, you have to come up with another theory. You know? Which basically leads to endless theories because there's always going to be holes in your argument. Right? Because your argument to begin with is not a valid argument. And this is the danger of evolutionary thinking. You know, which isn't just in biology. There's evolutionary thinking in biology. There's evolutionary thinking now in the medical field. There's evolutionary thinking in the creation of the universe. I mean, it permeates everything. And this leftist way of thinking is also derived from evolutionary thinking. Of course, they're kind of confusing now because it's like one side of them embraces anti-God, all science, but yet on the other side, they're arguing rights for everyone, everybody should be treated the same, and distribute the wealth and all this other stuff. And it's like, wait a second. You can't believe in Darwinism and then believe in everybody's got to be the same, right? Because Darwinism teaches that survival of the fittest, right? Evolutionary teaching. Not even Darwinism, just evolution in general, right? Survival of the fittest. Only the fit survive. So if you can't, you know, dig yourself out of your own hole, or if you can't get up enough determination to work hard for what you want to achieve, you know, then based on evolutionary theory, then you need to die off. Because you're useless for the promulgation of the human race. Right? So how can you think? Do you see the opposition there? So this is how the left works. Right? Like, for instance, what did I say earlier? There was something I saw on Twitter. Man, I wish I could remember it now. Well, anyway, somebody was like, said something, right? And you know how the left identity politics, it separates everyone into groups, right? You got the blacks, you got the Hispanics, Latinos, the whites, the Asians, the LGBT. But now I think what they're doing is starting to separate the gays from the transsexuals, right? So the transsexuals are now in their own little group now, and the gays and the lesbians are over here. And then I don't know where all the other genders that they made up fit, but right. And then you have the immigrants, and then you have the illegal immigrants, right? So then you have the Republicans, the Democrats, and then you got the people in the middle, which they want to get rid of the people in the middle. They don't like anybody in the middle, so they don't even want to categorize them. So I'll try to remember it if it comes to my mind. But basically, what they were bringing up a particular like comment about a situation that happened, right? And I read what they wrote, and then I looked at the situation, and then I'm like going, wait a second. What's going on here? And basically what they did when they were supposedly arguing in favor of this particular situation or group or person or whatever it was, they were spitting, okay, not literally, but figuratively. They were spitting on another group that they supposedly fight for. In other words, you had to say this group here is now the demon if I am going to defend this over here. That pertains to a whole nother group. That's within their whole identity politics set of groups. So now what they're doing is they're spitting on this group over here to defend this group over here. And I'm like going, wow. I'm like, that's crazy. You know, like, do they even realize what they're doing? You know, like, I don't even think the person realized what they were doing. You know? So this is the whole, this is where the confusion comes in of people on the outside looking in. Because to us, this new identity Marxism religion doesn't it's chaos, it's confusion. It doesn't make any sense. But this is why they had to why they have to separate everyone up into these groups, right? And what they do is get each group to distract itself into fighting for itself through activism, right? So, boy, this guy, what is he doing? Yeah. I did get him in the head, but... So this is why the whole identity politics thing, they have to have it, right? They have to have it. Because each group now is focused on defending themselves, right? So one group's over here doing this for themselves, fighting for whatever, feminism. This group's over here fighting for the LGBT. This group's over here fighting for the blacks. So they're a lot of times they're not even seeing what's going on in each of the other groups, you know, nor what's being said about each of the other groups, because there's literally like bigotry within the leftist side against each other. Because you know, if you say that all men are bad, wow, okay, well, what about black men? Oh, are black men bad? So which is it? Are men bad or just white men? Or, you know, it's like, you know, you understand? So there's like there's a big problem with their whole argument, because their arguments are against each other, even though they're trying to make it like against. They want it to be against everyone on the outside. But when you criticize one person in this group over here, you're uplifting somebody over here. Or if you're uplifting somebody over here, then you're putting somebody down over here. You see? So it's a nonsensical ideology. You know, it's only meant, okay? If you remember anything, it's only meant, this whole leftist ideology is only meant to get your emotions roused up, okay? That's all it is to get your emotions aroused, to create anger, to create resentment, to create bitterness, to create hate. That's all it is, okay? It has nothing to do with unity. It has nothing to do with peace. It has nothing to do with doing away with racism. Okay, because if you think about it, a lot of their rhetoric is more racist than what we would have considered normal racism. I mean, look at what they're doing now. Like, all white people are evil? White people are born evil? White people are born racist? I mean, all white people are born into privilege? I mean, imagine if we said that imagine if we actually claimed that as white people. Think about that. They're saying we apparently like. Um, Imagine if we said, "Oh, we're privileged. We're white people. We're privileged." Imagine if we said that. But I mean, imagine if we said that about black people or Asians. Oh, Asians, they're born negative. Oh, Asians, they always got it good. They never suffer. You know, like, this is very extreme thinking, man. And I hate to say it, but if everyone keeps letting them have the power that they're giving them, then they will take over the world. Okay? They already have a stronghold on a lot of countries already. Okay? Oh, here comes a Rex. They already have a stronghold on a lot of countries. And I think a lot of the countries that allowed this to happen, they regret it. But the problem is once the left takes over, it's very hard to get rid of it without doing some extreme things. You know, because as soon as you take away the universal health care, which is like making people pay high taxes in most countries, all the kids that grew up having universal health care are going to say, "Oh, no, don't take away my health care." You know, they're going to freak out like it's the end of the world, you know, without actually looking at like evidence and numbers, right? Because this is the argument I always bring up, is that, you know, universal health care, it sounds good, and maybe when countries get it, people are like feeling good about it, right? Although I'm not sure why anybody would voluntarily give away 50% of their income. That just, I don't know, it doesn't seem very logical to me. Because, you know, how many people actually spend $25,000 to $50,000 a year on medical care? You know? I would think that most people don't. Okay, most people don't. Okay? So, if you live, you know, say you started working at 20, and you live 60 years till, you know, or, you know, you retired at 80. Well, that's pretty far. Let's say 50 years. You retire at 70. Okay? For 50 years, you've been paying, like, say, at least $25,000 a year for 50 years. You know? So every 10 years, that's what, 250,000? So you paid into the system over, you know, what, over $1 million, right? That's only if you're like don't have really a great job. You're just making 50 grand a year and they're taking half. You know? So you could have put $25,000 a year away and had over $1 million at retirement. Like, who wouldn't want that? You know? Now, I understand the argument would be, well, what if you did get sick and you had like hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s in bills? Well, then you do. That's the way it goes. But why should I have to pay over $1 million in my lifetime if I barely even have to go to the doctor, you know, for most of my life? I mean, do you see the problem here? So why people voluntarily and did universal health care make you live longer? I would like to see studies on that. And when I say live longer by a significant amount. You know what I'm saying? Because universal health care is not going to keep you from dying. You're still going to die. Everybody dies. I mean, yeah, if we had universal health care and it was a proven fact that it would make me live 100 years longer, well, maybe I could buy into it. You know? If you can guarantee that I'm going to live to be 200 years old, sure, I could probably say that's worth $1 million. But I would bet that if somebody did a real honest study, that the life expectancy of the society as a whole didn't change very much because you had universal health care. I would almost, I'll just say I know that it wouldn't come out much different. Because there's only one thing to prevent you from getting seriously ill, okay? Now, everybody's different. There's always going to be outliers, obviously. But if you just want to live a nice, long life and live healthy and vibrant, then you have to treat your body well. You have to eat right. Now, when you have universal health care, what is the incentive for you to take care of yourself? Tell me that. What is the incentive? I mean, if all you can do is just go to the doctor on a whim, then who's going to care about taking care of themselves? I can go whenever I want to go get medication or, you know, go get an operation. Although, again, I have heard from people from other countries saying that even with the free health care, supposedly universal health care, if you need to get an operation, there's a long waiting list or a long time that you have to wait. You know? So, again, every country is different, I'm sure. But I've heard from different people from different countries that it's not all it's cracked up to be. You know what I'm saying? So it's not this like dreamy, you know, everything's good kind of situation. Just because there's supposedly universal health care. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so back to the critical race theory. So that's why it's so dangerous. Because it basically undermines everything. Okay, everything. because it seeks to redefine everything, you see? And this is what I think people in other countries don't understand who've been raised on this identity, uh, this Marxist identity. I call it ident Marxism ideology. You know, they're not thinking in their brains like what is actually happening here. You know, that you're basically taking away artistic expression. You're erasing a history that's valid, history that you need to remember, right? Because why would you want to forget slavery? Why would you want to forget the struggles that we've had? Not just in America, but in any country, right? Because through those struggles, right? Through those mistakes, improvements were made, right? Inventions were created. New ideas to actually help people were brought forward, you know? So whether something good happens or bad happens in history, it's always relevant to know, right? Because you can always learn from it, you know? So these people, they want to erase it, right? Because I said it before and I'll say it again, this has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with improving people's lives. It only has to do with a power struggle. We need to get in power, because once we're in power and we make these changes in the system, the people are locked in for eternity, forever, because you will never, ever, ever, ever be able to break it. Right? Because again, how do you break it? If you bring in universal health care and free college and all these things that are supposedly supposed to be for the betterment of people, which they're not, who is going to fight it? You're paying now for a big bureaucracy, a big government, and guess who makes the money? Not you. You're not making any money. You're not getting any of that tax money. But I guarantee you the politicians are doing all right. I guarantee you the military's doing all right. I guarantee you these college professors are doing all right who have been spreading this leftist ideology. And again, does that sound familiar? And I guarantee you that they have a nice secret police is what we say secret police, right? Like the KGB. I bet you they have a strong one of those in those countries. If you say or do anything wrong, they're knocking at your door. Does that sound familiar? Can anybody say Russia? The Soviet Union? China? Communism? Again, I don't know why people want to vote their freedom away. It's so ridiculous to me. It's like, now I just learned about all this stuff in the past, say, 5 or 6 years. I didn't really know what was going on. I knew something weird was happening, but I didn't know that students were getting taught this garbage in college. And I didn't realize that they were starting to teach our elementary school and high school kids this garbage. You know? I had no idea. I just kind of discovered all this the past, 5, 6 years. And of course, when Trump got elected, that even like accelerated my, basically educating myself about everything. but I think it's too late. I personally think it's too late. I think we've already given these people too much power already by yielding to them. And we can see that they already took over the media. I mean, Facebook is basically leftist. Twitter is definitely leftist. YouTube is basically leftist because they're all, you know. Hollywood's definitely leftist. Don't come to me, dude. Oh boy. Wait. Oh man. And these things, they take forever to die. Like, he should have been dead, you know, for sure. Should have been definitely dead. I shot him enough times. Crazy. So I think we're too far gone, you know. I don't think that we're going to be able to push back enough because you really have to. And I'm saying this for this reason. The violence and the hatred and the bigotry and the racism is not coming from the right side. Okay? That's 100% lie. Okay? Conservatives are not openly practicing racism, and they don't, you know, commit racism against people. You know, they just want to live their lives. You know what I'm saying? Just do what they do. Nobody wants to be bothered. You do what you do, I do what I do, and everybody's happy, right? So it's the left that is you know, practicing racism and hatred, right? All in the name of what? Climate change, really? And racism that doesn't exist. You know, when I say racism that doesn't exist, I'm talking about in the way that they say it exists, right? Obviously, there's racist people in the world. I mean, it's just stupid to think that there's not. You know, that's like saying, oh, there's no killers. There's no killers in the world, you know? Like, well, of course there's killers in the world. I mean, even if you said we're doing away with all killers, you still wouldn't be able to do that. You just wouldn't be able to do it. You know what I'm saying? So this guy's probably going to take my stuff, I guess. So so the only way to get rid of this leftist control would be to come down really hard on it. Okay? Now I'm not saying anybody should do anything, you know, but I'm just making a point. Is that you really would have to rip it out of your society, literally. You know what I'm saying? And squash it, you know, um, by making laws against it, by taking military action against it, by, putting people in jail who continue to incite violence and destroy things. Um, I think all funding to colleges should be put to an end. And I think that the government should open up their own colleges that are non-biased, that just teach science, that just teach English, that just teach psychology, that just teach, you know, English, the basic things that you need to survive in life, you know? And if you want to go learn any of that other stuff, you can go to some liberal college somewhere, you know? But the government should say, you know, no more discrimination against conservatives, against Republicans, against people that have a different way of thinking than these liberals do. Because that's what they're doing. They're discriminating against us. If we speak our mind, we get threatened. If we speak our mind, we get hurt physically. If we speak our minds, now they're killing people. Okay, they're going around shooting people. So and this thing in Portland was not the first time somebody got shot. Okay, this because the attack against the police have been killed, and then people also trying to fix the damage that has been created by these riots are being killed. Now the media doesn't want to report on this stuff because it goes against their narrative, right? So that's what would have to happen. That's what would have to happen here. That's what would have to happen in England. That's what would have to happen in every other country in Europe. And I don't think that our politicians have the strength to do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they have the strength to do that. I think as soon as Black Lives Matter, he took all my stuff. Unbelievable. Then he has the audacity to stay here. um, or either that, or he ruined all my stuff. Because if you go into somebody else's sack when they die, sometimes it erases all their stuff. But whatever, I'm not gonna get angry. It's just a game. Like, I don't care if he keeps some stuff or whatever, but I only care about, like, the guns that I like to use. I don't want any of that junk. There you go, the APR. I want the APR. I need the we can have that. I need the we can have that. No, that's marksman scope. I need sniper scope. Let's see if I missed something. Yeah, so I don't think that even if Trump wins, which he should, the left isn't going to stop. They already said that. They aren't going to stop. And the reason why they're not going to stop, oh, here it is. That's a handgun scope. The reason why they're not going to stop is because they know that the media is on their side. They know that Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube will not allow conservative voices to show the truth on their website. Now, YouTube has been a little, how shall I say, um, um, allowing people to show the videos for the most part. I mean, they do take down videos sometimes. But what they do is make it hard for you to find them. You know what I'm saying? They make it hard for you to find the information because of the algorithm. Yeah, I don't know where the scope is. I'm not sure. I didn't see it, unless I missed it. So, even if Trump wins in November, which, in my personal opinion, um, he should win by a landslide. Because, and the reason why I say that is because he won in 2016 as an underdog, right? Now people voted for him in 2016 and he won the election, right? Now, everybody thinks that like conservatives came out to vote, right, for President Trump, and that's why he won. Like, in other words, conservatives that didn't vote in the previous election or two came out and voted, right? But that's not what I think happened, right? What I think happened is the media did not understand that a lot of people that voted for Trump voted for Obama. Okay? Now you will never hear the media talk about that. Okay? It's always those Republicans or those right-wing people, right? But it was people that voted for Obama for 2 years, and Obama did nothing but bring this country down. Okay? And he started feeding into the hate against cops, against white people, against men. You see? So because of that, everyone who voted for Obama and put their faith in Obama felt betrayed. Okay? And it wasn't just any kind of betrayal, okay? It wasn't just any kind of betrayal. This wasn't like, in other words, people did not vote for Trump who voted for Obama because of a grudge, okay? Some people will think that that's the case. That's not the case, I don't think. I think what you had was sincere, conservative-minded people who in good faith, right, who weren't racist, wanted to give that last push to the black community, right? And this is how it always is. This is how it was in South Africa. This is how it was in other countries. You know, people come out to give that little last push, that little uplift, right? That final, like, we finally have a black president in the United States, right? To finally put the nail in the coffin of racism, of the evil of racism, right? Not saying that there isn't going to be racist people. There's always going to be racist people. There's racist people on both sides. Anyway, it doesn't matter. In black, white, Asian, I mean, every group has their racist, right? So that's kind of dumb to say you want to get rid of racism. You'll never get rid of racism. Okay? So people were like, oh, this guy sounds good, you know, and maybe they weren't really that political either, you know, they were just everyday people out there working hard, trying to make a living, you know, all that good stuff. And like people like me, right? And we wanted to like make history, right? And And when Obama did the things that he did, and really threw this country into the dumps, and when he basically threw this country into, brought back a race war where there didn't need to be one, he basically created the race war. He created it. Okay? So, with his rhetoric, a lot of people felt really like betrayed, like they got stabbed in the back. You know, like their I don't know the word. Their concern, or I should say their enthusiasm for helping to create this pinnacle in history where the first black president gets elected. You would think that there would be some appreciation for that, you know what I'm saying? From the president who got elected. So, and of course, President Obama, being that he was I guess a black man, if that's what he wants to say he is, would do something for the black community, right? And he didn't really do anything for the black communities or black colleges, you know, or, you know, at least anything that's going to last a long time. So this is the people that voted for Trump in 2016. Okay? And they saw what the media was doing. They saw what Black Lives Matter was doing. They saw the rise of Antifa. They saw these other groups. And they started doing more research for themselves to find out, like, what is causing all this stuff. You know, Obama didn't start it per se, but he definitely didn't help the situation at all. He made it worse. So, and I voted for Obama twice. Okay, I gave him the full 8 years to do something, and that was a mistake on my part. So, Obama got elected not just by liberals, but by a lot of conservative-minded people. Maybe they didn't say they were conservative. Maybe they don't. They're not on the Republican ticket or whatever the case is. But nonetheless, they were predominantly conservative-minded people. So in 2016, that's how Trump won. Now, the media wants to believe that the 64 million people that voted for Trump, that's his base. Right? That he's got nothing more. Right? That he's got nothing more. So, this is where they're gravely mistaken. Okay? Because, number one, more people are leaving the Democrat Party. More people who haven't voted before are coming out to vote for Trump. There's more people out there who didn't vote for Trump in 2016 who now are going to vote for Trump in 2016. I didn't vote for Trump in 2016. Okay? I voted for someone else because I bought into the lies of the media. I didn't know what to think, actually, but I had my suspicions, but I didn't really know all of what was going on, and like I said, until I did more research. So, Trump not only has his 64 64 million voters. Trump doesn't only have his 64 million voters from 2016, because I highly doubt any of them left are not going to vote for him again. I highly doubt that. And if there is any that aren't going to vote for him again, it's a very small, tiny percentage. You know what I'm saying? But I doubt most of them. I think most of them are just going to vote for him again. So you not only have the 64 million that voted for him in 2016, but you're going to have a whole lot more that vote for him this time around, added to that number. And I'm guessing there's going to be at least, and I'm just guessing here, because I always look at it this way. For every one of me, right? For every one of me who didn't vote for Trump in 2016, but is going to vote for Trump in 2020, for every one of me, there's going to be at least 100 more of me, right? So, and for every one of those 100, there's going to be 100 of them. You see what I'm saying? So the number is going to grow exponentially, you know? So I'm thinking there's going to be at least, I mean, if everyone comes out to vote, there's going to be 15 to 20 million more voters for Trump. That's my guess. So we could look at Trump getting 80 million votes. I mean, imagine that. That is ridiculous. So that's, again, just my prediction. Just based on my own kind of feeling and the amount of people that I see changing over to the conservative side, at least for this election. So I think the media is gravely mistaken with these polls, saying that Biden is ahead of Trump. Biden is not ahead of Trump. I mean, there's no possible way he could be ahead of Trump. Because everyone who voted for Trump in 2016 is going to vote for Trump again. And ever since 2016, or whatever, 2016, 2017, there's been more people coming over to the conservative side. So he's only going to have more voters. And this is why the Democrats already said, and the people on the left already said, that they are not going to concede. If Trump wins, Biden shouldn't concede. So they're going to keep this thing in a court fight for months, so that Trump can't become president. And the other thing that you have to be careful about too is that these mail-in ballots, some states, and I guarantee it's probably Democrat states, you can mail in your ballot up till the day before the election. I mean, isn't that insane? So you're going to have people, there's going to, I'm not going to even say people, there's going to be people that mail in massive amounts of ballots at the very last minute. And this is all going to be planned, okay? All planned. So that we won't even know who wins for days, maybe weeks after the election. Okay? And thirdly, in some of these states, predominantly Democrat states, you're not going to apply for a ballot, okay? Like most of the time you request, right? You request a mail-in ballot, and then you have to give reasons why you have to do a mail-in ballot. Whether it's because you're in the military or overseas, whether you're working in another country, you can't be here, or whether you have a disability, you know, or some other kind of impairment or medical problem, you know, whatever the case is, you're supposed to request a mail-in ballot, and then you'll get a ballot in the mail to send in. Oh. But what they've been talking about doing is just sending everyone a ballot. I mean, think about that. Everyone will get sent a mail-in ballot, okay? So what does that mean? Again, this is predominantly Democrat-run states, I think, where they're doing it this way. So, how are they going to determine who gets a ballot? Well, just send ballots to every name that they have in their system. So, if anyone's lived in the state over the years, they're going to get a mail-in ballot. If anyone's lived, whatever people they have on record in their state is going to all get ballots. That means that, let's say that 3 different families in the past 10 years lived at a particular residence, right? And let's say that 2 of those families moved out of state, right? So at that household, you're going to get 3 ballots. Okay? Let's just say there's a single person living there now, not a family, to make it simple. So you're going to get a ballot for the person who lives at the house, and then you're going to get a ballot sent there for the 2 previous residents there that no longer live at that address and may no longer even live in the state. Okay? So that's 3 ballots. So think about this. If there's a Democrat voter at that address, and let's just say that they're not just Democrat, they're these extreme leftists, what makes you think that they're not going to fill out all 3 ballots and go to some homeless guy on the street and get him to sign his signature so it looks different? You see the problem here? Or maybe people are dead. There might be people who are dead who get ballots because they didn't, because unless you declare a person dead, right, to the state is blind to who dies, right? Because you only know who dies locally. Like the local government knows who died. And even in that case, even in those cases, sometimes nobody even knows if the person dies. You know? Like, who's going to know? The family knows because they got the death certificate, but the state doesn't know that Jane Doherty died. So she's going to get a ballot. You see? So now Jane Doherty is going to get to cast a vote. So this is going to turn into this is a really big problem. And I know the Democrats always say, oh, the Republicans this and the Republican that, they're such bad people. No. Wrong. Wrong. Okay, the reason why I left the Democrat Party is because I don't agree with the hate and the cancel culture and calling people names and vile things because you don't agree with them. That's why I came over to the conservative side, because they don't do that. You know, and forget about the few people who do. I mean, that's a very small, teeny percentage. But there was people on my Twitter who were seemingly nice people, and then when they found out that I had some different viewpoints, my God, the names that I was called. So these people act nice, but they're not very nice when it all comes down to it. And it is an ideology. It's an ideology of hate. In other words, their ideology justifies treating conservatives badly. Their ideology justifies violence against conservatives. Their ideology justifies doing whatever they have to at all costs to make sure that what they want happens. That's what their ideology supports. That's what it dictates. So anybody who embraces the ideology of the left inherently is okay with violence against other people, racism against other people, diminishing of humans who don't agree with them. And yet, they call conservatives fascist. Again, they redefine the term. And this is what they feed in the minds of young people. And now they're doing it in high schools and elementary schools. They're being taught this doctrine. So, God help us all. That's why I say it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. And the only way to stop it is to literally fight back. And I don't think that our politicians, they don't got the backbone to do it. Because all they're worried about is the same thing, to stay in power. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me that some even turn on us. Now, again, I'm just saying that that's a good possibility, but I also tend to also think positively and have faith in people's desire to have freedom. You know, the United States, when they signed the Declaration of Independence, was a group of people, colonists, okay? This is a colony. Colonies run by England, basically, dictated by England, got together and took a stand for freedom. They didn't want the tyranny of England. Now, none of the other colonies around the world, at least for the most part, there might have been some here and there, I don't know, in small little things, but for the most part, nobody wanted to fight against Spain. Nobody wanted to fight against England. You know, nobody wanted to fight against France, right? So, but we stood up here against the tyrant, right? We wanted to be able to dictate our own vision for how we wanted to live. We wanted to practice certain rights that we thought were due to us. You know what I'm saying? And we did it. We fought against it. We were like the one and only, right? And because we did that, a lot of other colonies that were controlled by England, France, Spain started to rise up and say, man, America did it. We could do it too, right? So it started a revolution for freedom. This is not what the left wants. The left wants a revolution for oppression. And this is what blows my mind, like that they're fighting to literally vote away their freedoms. They want to give government basically ultimate power. Right? Power that they will never get back. Because once you hand over that much power to a government, especially in today's society, because how are you going to fight against tanks and the kind of weapons that we have today? I mean, President Trump could literally go into all the areas where the riots are going on and just shoot everyone dead. Done. And I guarantee you that they won't be rising up again. Now, Trump doesn't want to do that. We conservatives don't want to do that. But you know what? The left, if they had a chance to do that, they would do it without even a blink. Because their ideology supports it. Because they don't believe in freedom of individuality. They don't believe in personal rights. They don't believe in your right to practice your religion or practice your own way of living. It's crazy. And people just kind of like, I don't know, they just suck it up. Like even if you're like, I don't know, I look at it this way. Even if you're in college learning all this stuff, I mean, I don't know. Anybody with common sense would be listening to this and going, okay, that sounds bad. Right? I can understand how people can say, man, racism, wow, bad. But when it gets to the point of cancel culture, getting fired from your job, burning down cities, shooting people dead in the streets, throwing bricks at people's heads, slamming cops to the ground with, pieces of metal and skateboards, literally shooting cops dead too. In your mind, to me, anybody with common sense or has any kind of decency or regard for human life would say, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's a little too far for me. That's not how you fight for justice. You fight for justice by being a good example. That's how you make a positive change, through your example. Not through authoritarianism or totalitarianism. And I don't understand how people buy... Whoa, I don't want that. Oh, it's okay. So I don't understand. Personally, I don't understand how people buy into this ideology. Even if you were like dumb and didn't know anything. Like, I don't know. I'm not a perfect person. I can't tell you that I'm like, Mr. say everything right and do everything right. And, you know, I put my foot in my mouth quite often, you know, but um, I have a certain respect for people, you know. I don't I don't try to put myself above anyone else, you know, or on a pedestal, you know. Um, when I see someone, I look at them as an equal. I look at them as another human being, you know. And that's what I've always kind of been like. I never really harbored hate in my heart, you know? And this is the sick part of the ideology of the left. In order to gain the power that they want, and the they that I'm talking about are not the people that are in the streets. The they who I'm talking about are the ones who have been teaching this dangerous, evil doctrine to people. They're the ones that are going to be in government. They're the ones who are going to be running the country. And all these people that they deceived, that they duped, are going to still be the peons. They're not going to get praise. They're not going to get moved up into some high position. All they are is a tool. That's it. They're tools. That's it. They're doing the dirty work for the people who want to get into power. You know what I'm saying? That's it. All these people are gonna. If the left takes power here, and everything starts getting turned upside down, the country starts going downhill. People start like figuring out, oh, wait a second, I don't have that good job that was promised to me. Oh, I can't get the degree that I want. Oh, I can't really get that operation that they said I was going to be able to get with, or that I assumed I was going to get with free health care. And on and on and on. And you know, oh, wait a second, they're not going to give me a job in the government, like in a high position. I have to do this job because this is what they're telling me to do. They're going to be like going, wait, what happened to the utopia? You know, like it reminds me of like the villain, right? The villain who they have like they get all these people to do what they want them to do, right? Like they get them all psyched up and riled up, yeah, rah, you know, and they go and do the deed, right? They do the deed, they do all the dirty work, and then like when the villain is sitting high in his chair, going, man, I'm the boss now, you know, I'm the king or whatever the case is, I'm the emperor or leader. What does he do to the people when they come up to him? Oh, master, what do you have for me to do now? Nothing. He smacks them with his hand and they go flying and goes, get away from me. I'm done with you. I don't need you anymore. That's basically what's going to happen. And everybody that thought they were going to be getting prosperity, that distribution of wealth that they're talking about is not a distribution of wealth to the ones on the bottom. It's a distribution of wealth to the government. And all the government employees, all the government politicians, all the college professors who are indoctrinating people because they have to keep it going, right? Just like in the USSR, right? They have to keep all the kids that grow up indoctrinated with this belief that they're living in this nice society and everybody else is bad. and everyone else is going to get pushed down because they all got to be equal, right? So there's only going to be enough money to make everyone equal down here. Not up here, down here. So you're going to have you're either going to have a lower middle class or of people, a massive amount, or an upper poor class. Okay? And believe me, a lower middle class is not good. Just because the word middle class is in there. Lower middle class is not good. So, and all of us are going to say, we told you so. And you voluntarily voted your freedom away. You voluntarily voted your money away to give to somebody else. You voluntarily voted your freedom to practice your religion away. Because trust me, when things get oppressive, people find religion real quick. Because where else can you find hope? There's no hope in the world. There's no hope in materialism. There's only hope in God. That's it. That's all you have. There's no hope anywhere else. Because there's no promise of an aftershock. Or excuse me, an afterlife, unless you believe in God. Oh, who's with me? Is Herky with me? Oh, Herky's with me. Hey, Herky. I don't know why I forgot it was you, Herc. Sorry about that, dude. I'm like zoned out here. I was thinking it was the other guy that logged off. I don't know why. So, you know, this pushback against the left has nothing to do with me being racist, me hating people. People voted for Trump to keep the American dream alive, to keep our freedom of individuality. Because whether people want to acknowledge it or not, freedom of religion is the whole reason we have freedom of individuality. It was because of those martyrs back in the Dark Ages who fought against the papacy, who pretty much controlled Europe, I mean, through the monarchs. It was their deaths that made it possible for us to have, you know, they escaped from Europe to the New World. See, this is what the left doesn't want to teach. People were running away from oppression. Right? They were coming to the New World to live free. You know? Not to go there and slaughter countless Indians. I mean, that's so stupid. Now, that did happen. They did fight the Indians, but, you know, what would you do, right? Are you going to stay somewhere where you're getting oppressed, where you can't be free, or are you going to try to run somewhere else? You can't blame people for that. And again, the whole slavery thing is not really a valid argument either, because everyone didn't own slaves. And everybody wasn't for slavery. In the world, there's only certain people that have slaves. You know? And there's a whole bunch that don't. More don't than do, you know? So, that's a dumb argument. I don't hear them complaining against Muslims who practice the slave trade for many, 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 many hundreds and thousands of years. I don't hear them talking about the slave trade now. That's happening out of Libya. All because of Obama. And the Democrats inspiring the Arab Spring and Obama drone striking everywhere, wherever he felt like dropping bombs. But the Republicans were the bad guys, right? But the media never talked about that, and they don't talk about that now. They don't talk. They didn't talk about South Africa, how bad that was getting, or maybe it still is as bad as it was. I'm going the wrong way here. You know, where white people are now being discriminated against. In some cases, their farms are being taken away from them because the blacks feel like they're entitled to take it because they took their land, or whatever the case is, or whatever, you know. You know, I understand people say, well, that they deserve it, they deserve it. Well, that can be argued. Why? You know, if you're going to take something away from somebody because you said it's yours, fine. Then the least you could do is relocate the white people to a place where they can now live and farm. Because they're just the descendants of descendants of descendants of descendants, you know. They're not the ones who decided to go there. Again, another dumb argument. You know, you punish the people that are here today that had no choice but to be here. They had no control over where they were born. I don't want this gun. Well, it turns out that Zimbabwe, I think it's Zimbabwe, apparently, they must have did what South Africa's doing now. Where I guess the guy who took over there, whoever the leader is, was really like harsh on the white people and was kicking them out of the country, taking their farms away from them and everything. And now Zimbabwe, since their money's worthless now, and apparently I guess the black people or whoever took the farms over, they don't know how to run them right, you know, so they can't produce enough food or something, I don't know. So now the leader of the country apparently have a change of heart. Now they're calling for the white people to come back, and they'll give them their farms back so they can run them and bring the country back to prosperity again. I mean, who would have thought that would have happened, you know? I mean, you can't even make this stuff up, right? So, but you don't hear that in the media. The media is not telling anybody that. Just like the media didn't tell people the truth about Africa. Remember when a lot of these African countries were like committing genocide and all this other stuff? And they were blaming it on, you know, it seemingly always blamed it on one side or the other, right? Well, if you really examine those things carefully, and I was kind of looking at them lightly, thinking about things, I'll bet you that it was the leftists who were working in those countries telling the same things to those tribes as they're feeding the people today in America, and how they ended up getting people to go on their side in Europe, right? Same thing that happened in Yugoslavia, right? There were mostly white people there, so they couldn't use the race card, so they used the religion card. They got the Muslims against the Christians. right? Or Muslims against the Catholics. And they were just like making stuff up in the media, like blowing stuff out of proportion like they're doing today. You know? Like they might take one incident that happens in Chicago, one incident that happens in Atlanta. You know, incidents that don't happen all the time. You know what I'm saying? But now they're like using every incident to say that it's the same kind of incident. And that's not true. That's a lie. So this is what they did in Africa. You pit one tribe against the other. I guarantee it was leftist groups. And we didn't really know that because that's not how the media was teaching it to us. Yeah. Yep. So this is the modern communism. That's really what you're saying. That's all it is. Except they're using race. Here comes another. They're using race. Which, to me, it's still quite amazing that they can even use the race card here in America. I mean, we've had the Civil Rights Act. It's been out now for well 50 years. And our Constitution already, now since the Civil Rights Act, that includes black people, right? So now the Constitution covers all people, you know? So everyone has had rights under the Constitution for 50 years now. Okay? Now I'm saying everybody, right? The Constitution has always had the rights there, but the Civil Rights Act kind of like guarantees, kind of like says you have to give everyone their constitutional rights, just like, and that includes black people. You can't discriminate. Okay? So, but this is how kind of dumbed down our people have become. They don't even know what the Constitution says. They don't know why our country was founded. They're being taught in school that our country was founded upon racism, and that's false. Because again, they want to deny Christianity. They want to deny the relevance of Christianity. Okay? I mean, that's really mainly who's getting attacked. Muslims are not getting attacked here. Muslims, I think, the reason why it looks like, I don't know if they are. I mean, if you look, I always say Muslims should not be voting Democrat, you know? Muslims should be voting conservative, simply because their religious freedom should be something that they want. But now I'm starting to think that the reason why Muslims might want to be on the left side is because of now the hatred for white people. Because I just caught wind of something recently that Muslims believe that white people are like from the devil or something like that. Right? That we are like the race that was bred from Satan, you know? And that kind of like made a light bulb go off in my head going, oh, okay, now I can understand why there's Muslims that may support the left. Okay? And because in actuality they really shouldn't. right? Because if this is all about worshiping God, then they should be on our side so they can practice their religion. Now, of course, they can't practice any, you can't practice any religion here that goes against the Constitution, right? So, in other words, one right doesn't override another right. Okay? We can practice freedom of religion here. But you can't, like, say Muslims can't come over here and like, you know, just start beheading people because, you know, they don't agree with their religion. You see what I'm saying? Or you understand? So there's a limit to what you can do. But as far as like gathering and worshiping and teaching your religion, you can do that here. And this is the um, and this is how wonderful our Constitution is. Because, you know, religious... What is he shooting? Because I've said this before. What is he shooting? It's dead, finally. Phew. Our Constitution is written in such a way where secular people, religious people, and everyone in between can live together in peace and in harmony, right? What is he shooting? Okay? And amendments in our Constitution, like the Second Amendment, which gives us the right to bear arms, gives us the right to carry a firearm and be able to defend ourselves with that firearm, right? Now, of course, that's been chipped away, especially in cities, you know, um, in the name of, you know, community safety, which is a bunch of bullcrap, because criminals will always find ways to get guns. Okay? And if they don't use guns, then they'll use knives. You know, or some other way, you know, to threaten people. So that's just a bunch of crock. So I'm surprised they even got away with it as much as they did, because to me the Second Amendment is very clearly written. You know, there should be no law at all, period, that limits or makes it hard for you to get a weapon if that's what you want to get, you know? Now, if you broke the law and used weapons in the past to just kill people or hurt people without regard, I can understand then you not being allowed to have a gun. But if I want to go out and buy a gun, I should be able to just go to the store, fill out a piece of paper, show my ID, and walk out with the gun. Period. You know? Like the gun owners or the stores should be able to swipe my license and then see if I have any, if I'm an ex-convict or whatever. And that's it. Should be able to be done on the spot. And if I don't have any felonies, then boom. I should be able to put my money on the table and walk out of there. But you can't even do that. You got to go through a whole bunch of hoops just to be able to get a weapon, get a license. So to me, that should not be. And I don't even own a gun. So it's not like I'm a gun freak, gun fanatic. And our freedom of speech. We have freedom of speech here, so you can go out and protest if you want. But you can't riot. You can't just go out and destroy things in the name of protesting. And you're technically not supposed to even tell people to go out and do that. But for some strange reason, and this is why I'm telling you, I don't think we can stop this. For some strange reason, the left is allowed to do that. They're allowed to destroy things, hurt people. They're allowed to tell other people to go out there and do the same stuff. So this is why these people want to bring America down, because we are the last beacon of hope for freedom of conscience in this world. Everybody wants to minimize the importance of the United States in this world. To say that we're nobody special, we're just like everybody else, we're no better. But if America falls, we all fall. That's the only reason why China. And remember, a lot of this has to do with China too. This is why Trump kept talking about China. Right? Because a lot of this is inspired by China and funded by China. So I'm finding out even more about that aspect, about the funding aspect. I didn't realize that the Chinese government was funding programs directly in some of these, in a lot of these colleges that we have in this country. And I'm like going, whoa, why was that even allowed? It's one thing to have trade with a communist country. Although I don't know how we even started to do that, to be honest with you. I mean, that kind of was on my mind for many years. Like, why are we even dealing with China? Aren't they communists still? But we allowed it. And that's why our country went down financially and job-wise. But as long as we're around, you have to understand China cannot use its heavy hand. If we weren't around, China would just invade. Invade. They would invade other countries. They would literally, which is what they're basically doing now. They're doing it more covertly. They're doing it covertly now, but if we weren't around, they would just be doing it overtly, literally invading countries, killing all the government officials and putting their own people in, pretty much like what Russia did. You know, just kind of took over the countries that were adjacent to them. And so we're the only thing stopping things from getting extremely worse. You know, extremely worse. Now I know biblically, the Bible already says that this new world order is going to take over at some point. And they're gonna be able to take over, not necessarily because of what they're doing now with the riots and everything, but they're gonna do it covertly, and they're gonna do it in the name of peace, right? So all this unrest that they're causing right now, the left, eventually people or politicians are going to get tired of it. And they're going to say, look, we have to stop this. We have to come together somehow, some way, even with our differences, right? So what they'll do is they'll yield some things to the left, like they always do, and the left will be like, fine, we can deal with that, you know? But again, the left is going to win, right? So even though it might appear that they're not, then they're going to come together and we're going to have a national day of whatever they call it, a day of love, a day of unity, a day of peace. You know, they're going to set up Sunday, okay? It's going to be a World Sunday Law. Of course, they won't call it that, but it will be the first day of the week. And the papacy, again, is going to be a big part of that, right? Because they're the ones who are doing a lot of influence behind the scenes. A lot of people don't realize that. And that's it. We're going to have the World Sunday Law. And we already have aspects of what the Bible was talking about anyway, because it says you won't be able to buy or sell unless you receive the mark of the beast. And the mark of the beast, and I'm going to say it, is not a mark on your hand. It's not a mark on your forehead. It's not a chip in your hand. It's not a chip in your forehead. The mark of the beast is Sunday. Sunday is the mark of the beast. It always was and it always will be. Sunday has always been the identifying mark of Satan, of pagan worship. Sunday was always their day in honor of the sun god. Okay, the Sabbath, which is the seventh day, was always the day that pointed to the Creator. Okay, that would be Jehovah, Yahweh, Jesus. Okay, Sunday has always been the day of Satan. Now, you might be going, whoa, whoa, what are you talking about there? Go to a website called sabbathtruth.com and you'll find out how everything, why a lot of the Christian world worships on Sunday and why Catholics worship on Sunday. Well, Sunday, well, we know why they do it, but, you know, so, and you'll find out. Oh, look at that, I killed that Rex. That was a long time ago I did that. It finally died. So everything that's happening today, even though I didn't think it was going to happen in my lifetime, I already saw it coming because of what I know about Bible prophecy and everything else, you know? And I'm not talking about just, like everybody always talks about Bible prophecy for years and years and years and decades. And look, we're still here. Well, yeah, that's true. But this is quite different. This is quite different. This is now pushing us at the very edge of eternity, you know. Now we still could go on for another election cycle, another 10 years, whatever. It will, everything doesn't unfold, overnight per se. It takes jumps, you know. And every time you get to the next jump happens quicker, and then the next jump quicker. It's like when you squeeze something. If you drew lines on something and you're pushing it from this side, all these down here things are going to be crushed. The lines are going to be closer, while out here they're going to still be spread out. So the closer you get to the end, the quicker things happen. So the jumps become more frequent, meaning jumps to the end of time, because we are not going to go on for thousands of more years, millions of more years, It's not going to happen. Because don't be. Hey Akbar, what's up, man? Echo, how you doing? I didn't see you. So, God is not gonna like anytime. You have to understand that the Catholicism, even though it's a religion, the papacy is always in favor of totalitarianism. Okay? They don't have a problem with communism, right? Or fascism like it was in Germany back in the 1930s and 40s. They don't have a problem with that. Because they fit very well into a totalitarian form of government, right? Because that's a way for them to teach and preach their religion. I mean, they're quite open about this on several of their websites. So they're not right. Everybody kind of thinks Catholicism people are on the right. They're not on the right. They're on the left. Okay? The appearance that they have is to be on the right, right? They want the worshipers to think that they're like they want the outsiders to think that they're on the right. And the worshipers might think that they're on the right because of the whole abortion thing. But they're not. Yeah, well the number of the beast is not a mark on the forehead. The mark, when the Bible talks about the mark in the forehead and in the hands, right? Because that's what it says, in the forehead, in the hand. It's not talking about a physical thing like a number or a chip or a tattoo or a barcode. Okay? That's not the mark of the beast, which I already said what the mark of the beast was. when it talks about the mark of the beast in your hands and in your forehead, the Bible's talking about, when it says in your forehead, it's talking about you making a conscious choice to follow the beast. Okay, you're using your mind to choose to follow the beast. Okay, and when it says the mark is in your hand, that means you, by your actions, right? Your actions, what you do with your hands and your body, you're choosing to follow the mark of the beast. Okay? So some people will know what they're doing and follow the beast's power. Others either won't know what they're doing or they're just following along because they don't want to get in trouble. You see what I'm saying? So that's where the works come in. Okay, this is one of the biggest problems with modern Christianity. They're teaching the wrong doctrine there. The wrong way. It's deceiving too many people. Okay? 666, we already know who the 666 does not refer to the mark of the beast. It refers to the man who is the head of the beast. And that would be the Pope. Okay? On his little thing that he wears on his head, it says the Vicar of Christ. Or, well, it's in Latin, sorry. It's written in Latin. I forget the Latin. If you read it, it's in Latin. But it means Vicar of Christ. It means he's God on earth, basically. Now, if you add up the Roman numerals on the Pope's mantle, because, remember Latin, every letter equals a number, right? And then sum equals 0. So if you add up the letters on the Pope's mantle, it comes out to 666. So I'm not sure if you were aware of that. So the Pope is the head of the beast's power. Okay? And then the Bible talks about another power coming up later in history. Okay? Because the papacy got their power in the 5th century. I think it was 528 AD. I could be off a little bit there. Or what is that considered, the 6th century? Whatever. 538 AD. That's when the Pope got his power from, I think it was Constantine. And then the papacy ruled Europe for 1260 years. Okay, which Revelation talks about times and a half a time, which equals 42 months, which equals 3.5 years, which is 1260 days. But in Bible prophecy, every day equals a year. So from 538 AD to 1798, that was the 1260-year reign of the papacy in Europe. Because I think it was in 1798 that Napoleon's general or commander took the Pope captive and put him in prison. And that's when the papacy lost its power. Okay, which again, Revelation talks about the beast getting a deadly wound. But then later on, the wound was healed. Okay? So the papacy lost its power in 1798, and then I think it was 1933 is when the wound was healed. Right? When Mussolini gave the papacy, or the Vatican, back its power. Okay? To be its own sovereign state again. So the Bible's right on the money, right? So the mark of the beast is not 666, and it's not a stamp, a chip, or a mark on your hand or forehead. Okay, the mark of the beast is Sunday. Sunday has always been the day of the devil, a pagan day in honor of the sun god. Okay? And that's where the Catholic Church gets it from. Because Catholicism is a mix of paganism and Christianity. It's not a pure Christian church. It's It's a hybrid. Okay? So a lot of their ritual practices that they do are actually adopted from old pagan religions, right? Mithraism, Babylonian, worship. Um, you can look all this up yourself, by looking at their symbols, looking at the stuff that they wear. You know what I'm saying? You can all see how it directly points to the old pagan religions. So that's not something that you can't find out for yourself. But regarding the Sunday being the mark of the beast, look up a website called sabbathtruth.com, and that'll explain how Sunday became the Christian day that people worship, and why they don't worship on the Sabbath like the Bible tells them to do. So, anyway, so that's all I got to say about that. So this is all ties in though to all this unrest. You have to understand that. So the left, this new what I was trying to get to, this new joining, right? This new cooperation that's coming between quote unquote the left and the right, okay? In the name of peace, okay? Where they're going to mandate a day of the week, which will be Sunday, for everyone to remember this peace, to remember to stay at peace. Okay, that's what it's going to be for. It's going to be a day, a memorial, right? To remember that we shall not fight against each other. We should have peace, right? And they're going to say you can't do any work or anything like that, and they're going to enforce this. And people are going to be still going to church on Sunday, and people are still going to be going to church on Saturday, which is the Sabbath, right? And anybody who goes against this peace day are going to be deemed enemies of the state, okay? And these people who are worshiping on the Sabbath day, which is the real day of God, eventually they're going to be on to that, and they're going to say, well, you can't worship on Sabbath because it's creating too many problems. There's only one day that's a sacred day to us, and that's Sunday. Now, there's going to be reasons for that, because there's going to be calamities. Okay, there's going to be problems still. See, they're going to think that everything's good after they do this little World Day of Peace thing. But no, the Bible says that there's going to be calamities that are going to come. There's going to be problems that come, and they're going to blame it on the people who are not paying homage to the Sunday. Okay, and eventually they're going to get to the point where, eventually down the road, once they get tired of it, I guess, they're going to start throwing people in prison. And then they're going to see that the calamities and these problems don't end, right? And they're going to say, well, it's because of these people. It's because of these dissenters. It's because of these Sabbath keepers. It's because of the people that don't honor the Sunday, the day of peace, okay? So we're going to put them to death. So they're going to issue a death decree for people who don't fall into line. Now that sounds extreme, but that's what it's going to eventually get to. Okay, it's not going to happen overnight, but it will eventually get to that. This is what the scriptures tell us. So, but the Bible tells us specifically, if we have been following him, that he will not let countless people get slaughtered because they opposed the world order, okay? Like what happened in Europe during the Dark Ages. So what's going to happen at that point? And I'm just telling you guys all this. You can believe it or don't believe it, but I'm telling you this before it happens. So that when you start seeing this stuff happen, hopefully, if you don't follow God, you can really be serious about, you know, if there's time, I don't know, it's up to God whether he's going to accept your change or not. I don't know, you know. It may be too late at that time, I don't know, but I'm just letting you know this so that everybody knows, whoever wants to listen. So what's going to happen after the death decree drops is that's when God is going to drop the plagues, the 7 last plagues, shortly after. Because he made it clear that he's not going to let countless millions get slaughtered again in the name of a world religion or a new world order. And you might say, well, why did he allow it to happen in the Dark Ages? Well, because, I mean, to make a long story short, it's because he wanted to let everyone know what life is like on the planet when you're under the control of Satan. The papacy was under the control of Satan. Now that sounds harsh, but that's just the truth. It doesn't matter if they're a religion or not, you know, or if they say they believe in Jesus or they say they believe in God. You know, they weren't following God. They weren't following the Bible. And they were under the control of Satan. And that's what happens when the world, you give these people power to run the country. They end up doing very terrible things. And it's pretty obvious that we didn't learn our lesson from the papacy, did we? And you know the reason for that was? It's because a lot of the Christian churches, as years went by, they forgot they were Protestant. And they didn't want to teach people about what happened in the Dark Ages with the papacy because they thought it might be offensive. So basically what they did was misinform everyone and shot themselves in their own feet. Yeah, I kind of figured that, Akbar. Well, I'm telling you too, brother. This is what the scriptures say, and the scriptures are true. The scriptures are proven to be true. And, you know, I'm not trying to offend anyone. But the Bible is accurate. All the prophecy in the Bible has come true. You know? And this is what the Bible says. And God is calling everyone out. He's calling Christians that aren't following the Bible. He's calling them out. He's calling Catholics out who are not following the Bible. They're following their tradition. He's calling worldly people out who don't follow God. He's calling Muslims out, you know, who don't follow the Bible. So in Revelation it says, come out of her, my people, come out of Babylon. You know, Babylon basically represents everything, okay? And I'm going to say this, and you can hate me, you can persecute me for saying it, but Babylon is everything that is not of God, not of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? If you're not following the Bible, then you're part of Babylon. Now, God is not telling people that to insult them. He's just saying, just be aware that that's where you are, you know? And he basically says, read the Bible, at least study the Bible so that you can know for yourself, you know? God in the Bible says, test me, try me. You know what I'm saying? I can't make anybody believe anything, you know? But at least investigate for yourself. It doesn't matter whether you're Muslim, Hindu, evangelical Christian, Catholic Christian. You know, you have to study the Bible for yourself and see if these things are true, you know? And, well, yeah, I heard that before, Akbar, that you guys say that some, but the Quran is not really. It may have some things that the Bible has in it, but it's not the Bible. Okay? And, you know, again, I don't want to offend you or anything like that. That's not my purpose here. My purpose here is to just tell you what I know from scriptures, and I know that the scriptures are true. Because all the prophecy in the scripture has been 100% accurate. And there's a lot of prophecy in the Bible that people don't know about if they don't study it for themselves. So, and, you know, I know it's hard for people to give up. I know it's hard for people to give up their religion, whether it be Catholic or Muslim or Hindu or whatever, especially if they've been raised that way from birth. It's very hard. I mean, I can only imagine, you know? But what I tell people is at least just read it for yourself. Like, you don't have to give up your religion. Just read the Bible for yourself, you know? Study it for yourself. Read it from beginning to end. And see what it says to you, how it speaks to you. You know, because no matter what religion you are, the Bible has always been the Word of God, right? It came before, well, you know, I know that secular scientists want to argue this point, you know, because I've seen programs on TV that make claims that I don't particularly think are true, but whatever. But the Word of God came first, right? And everything has to be based around that. So this is the main thing that, well, I'm talking about the Bible, the Christian Bible. You know what I'm saying? The King James Bible would be the most accurate one, okay? The later Bibles that came are not in line with what the King James Bible says. Okay? So the King James Bible is based on the most transcripts, right? So and I know that people like to argue with, well, how do you know it wasn't changed and all this stuff? Well, because God, then you're saying that God has no power. Right? If you say that the Bible has been changed, then what you're basically saying is God has no power. So whether you believe in the Quran or not, your God doesn't have power either. So that's not really a good argument, especially people of faith, whether you're a Muslim, Christian, or whatever. Secular people will say that, and we expect them to say that, right? So the King James Bible is based off of many transcripts, meaning that the more testimony that you have, the greater the chance of the accuracy. And since we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, which we compared the King James Bible to, we know that it's accurate. Okay? And we also have the Torah, right? We have the Hebrews, the Jews. They have their Torah. So we can at least compare the Old Testament to the Old Testament. And that's pretty much accurate. But we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, which confirm a lot of the New Testament stuff. So, so there's really no valid reason to question whether the King James Bible is accurate. Okay, because when you start going down that rabbit hole of questioning everything, then you can't really trust anything. Okay, so if the Word of God, right, which came from creation through the Hebrews and then through the Christians, that came first. Okay, so everything that we believe today should be based on the Bible, no matter what you believe in. So, because Jeremiah says, if they speak not according to this word, if they speak not according to this word, to the law and to the testimony, then there is no light in them. Okay, that's a very clear and specific scripture. Okay, that was way back in Jeremiah, hundreds of years before Christ, So, if we want to be honest with ourselves, if we want to believe in God, then we have to be open-minded enough to read it. Now, you can reject it if you want after you read it. God gives us all the freedom to choose, right? That's what he gives us, freedom of choice. He gave Adam and Eve freedom of choice, didn't he? Now, he could have just, after they ate the apple, he could have just made them drop dead, But he didn't do that, He did punish them by kicking them out of Eden, but he still gave them grace. He still gave them a chance to repent and have forgiveness. Of course, it was done through symbols, which was, the sacrificing of the lamb, which pointed to the coming Messiah, right, who was Jesus, right? They weren't saved by the blood of that slain lamb. They were saved, through the symbol of the dying Christ, which was to come, and the lamb was just a symbol of that Christ. So that's why we don't have to kill a lamb today, because the Messiah already came. So that's why there's no need for a sacrifice. You just can say, Lord Jesus, forgive me. Help me to do better. And then you receive forgiveness that way. Because Christ goes before the Father and says, my blood, from Michael, my blood. And then the Father says, accepted. Now that doesn't give us the right to just say I'm sorry and go sin. The Bible is very clear about abusing the grace that he gives us. But and that's really what makes the Christian religion different from all the other religions. Most of the other religions are based off of works, It's like a works-based faith where you work your way into heaven. You work your way into God's favor. And, you know, that's not really what the Bible teaches. You know, we have the grace because God's loved us and sent His Son to die for us. But we do the works because we love God, right? That's why we do the works. And we do the works because we love people, right? Well, these wrecks, they don't want to die. So anyway, I would just say, read the Bible for yourself. Go on SabbathTruth.com. That'll give you some background on why Sunday seems to be the new day that people worship on and respect, versus the seventh-day Sabbath, which is what's in the commandments, right? The commandments say we're supposed to worship on the seventh day. And then another thing that people could check out is a guy, Walter Veith, who does a lecture series called Total Onslaught. By Walter Veith, right? Check it out. Whether you're Muslim, Christian, Hindu, it doesn't matter. That will give you a whole lot of information, not only on like the Christian religion, but it also gives you information on why we're heading towards this new world order. So, and it talks about, you know, governments, talks about the politics behind it, it talks about the secret societies, it talks about the papacy, right, when it ruled Europe, right, with a heavy hand. And I'm against that. I'm not for that kind of behavior. They were wrong. They were doing it in the name of the Catholic religion. They weren't doing it in the name of, you know, what the Bible said. They weren't following the Bible. So check that out. That's good information for everyone, okay? Because he lays out in 36 lectures the big picture, you know, of how we got where we are today with all this like leftist ideology, this identity politics and rise of Marxism and all this stuff. So, well, Trump doesn't really know what he's doing. I mean, he's doing. Trump is a. I believe that Trump is doing what he's doing. Like, he's doing good things here in America. I won't. You won't get me to say he's not. Like, the media doesn't tell you that, but he's actually done a lot of good things for this country. But the problem is, right, on both sides, the left and the right, right, they fall for this, like, they both fall for this, like, everything's going to happen in the Middle East. Like, the focus is always on the Middle East, the Middle East, the Middle East. And I'm not saying that I'm not diminishing the countries in the Middle East. I'm talking about from a religious, political standpoint, right? There's this, like, belief that everything's going to happen around Jerusalem or Israel and the Muslim countries right around them, that there's some significance there, right? So what they're doing is they're trying to force what they believe to happen, which is not biblical, Okay, it's not based on what the Bible says. Whether it's Catholics, evangelicals, and I'm sure Akbar, you know that there's a lot of Muslim or Islam clerics that embrace this too, right? That they believe something big is supposed to happen in the Middle East there. And, ouch. So, they've all bought into this, you know? And that's why all this New World Order can happen, because obviously Catholics, Jews, Muslims, they all got to get together, you know, and embrace this kind of New World Order thing, right? So Trump is just doing something that he really doesn't understand, right? Because he's been listening to the religious groups, you know, who are like touting this things have to happen in the Middle East, you know, to promulgate this misunderstanding of prophecy that they have. And like I said, it's evangelicals, Muslims, Catholics, and even a lot of these other Hindu, you know, people that believe in Hinduism and Buddhism, they're all embracing this, you know, New World Order thing. That's why they have the, what is it called? The World Council of Religions or something like that. You would probably know more about it than we do here, because we don't really have it. We don't really have that here. Like, they don't really get together here much. Like, it's always like in Korea or Japan or, you know, a Muslim country where they have these like big meetings. Or Africa somewhere. Right. And so, but you came a little late, Akbar. If you heard what I said earlier, it's not what you think, right? So even if they do come together and come to an agreement, and they start saying we've accomplished peace, we've accomplished world peace through this pact and through this day that we set aside, this day of peace, which is going to be Sunday, okay? I'm going to keep emphasizing that. It's going to be the first day of the week. They're going to have a World Day of Peace, or they're going to call it the World Day of Love, the World Day of Unity, whatever they decide to call it. Okay, it's going to be Sunday. So the Bible says when you start hearing peace, peace, sudden destruction is going to come. So, and that's going to come back to what I said earlier, which I'm not going to repeat again. So if you wanted to know what I said earlier about the mark of the beast and all that, check it out, what I said earlier in the video. So, so God is calling everyone out of Babylon, right? He's calling everyone. He's calling atheists out of Babylon. He's calling Catholics out of Babylon. He's calling Christians out of Babylon. He's calling Muslims out of Babylon. He's calling Hindus out of Babylon. He's calling everyone out of Babylon. Okay? Because all the religions, all the ideologies have been tainted with falsehood. Okay? So, I'm talking about everyone. Okay? The Bible only talks about a select number of people that are going to be saved at the end of time. And he calls them the remnant. Okay? And the remnant, he says, are this. And this is the Bible talking, not me. Twice talks about, says the same basic thing. Those who have the testimony of Jesus Christ and keep the commandments of God. Those who have the faith of Jesus Christ and have the, or those who keep the commandments of God and have the spirit of prophecy. Okay? That's the only people in the end that are going to be saved. It's very specific. There's no riddle. There's no crazy wording. He's very precise and specific about who the remnant are. They keep the commandments of God, they have the faith of Jesus Christ, and they have the spirit of prophecy. That's it. And those are the people that he's calling out of Babylon. Those are the people who are going to be coming out of Babylon. Babylon, it represents everything that is anti-Holy Scriptures, anti-Bible. Okay, I'm talking about the Christian Bible. Okay, so that's what it says. Now, the Bible doesn't tell us to go out there and start beating people over the head or killing them. That's not what Christians do. All they do is spread the truth, and everybody has to accept it or reject it for themselves. That's their choice, you know. This is where we are now, though. We're at a time right now where everyone has to make a choice. This is where we are. We're at the end. Based on Bible prophecy, there isn't a whole lot left to happen. It's already been fulfilled. Ah. I've been telling people that might be why this whole COVID thing happened, you know? Like, I was thinking about it very negatively. I mean, it does suck, trust me. I mean, I'm not saying I like it, but this COVID situation has actually helped a lot of people. It's helped a lot of people wake up to what's been happening and give people time to look into things, right? To figure out, like, why is all this stuff been going on? You know, all this unrest and hate talk and cancel culture, and you know, and I believe that God allowed this to happen so that people can not only know what the left has been doing, but what the right has been doing, and how give people time to discover the truth, you know, before, you know, this unity thing comes, you know, in the name of peace, in the name of love, in the name of compassion, right? So that's what I think. This is the wake-up period. This is the time that people have to wake up and start looking into things rather than being so closed-minded and set on just one way of thinking. Unfortunately, you have people out there destroying things, and they're not using this time very wisely. People could be using this time to make themselves better, right? So, anyway, I guess that's my spiel. I said enough. I'm sure there's enough in this video to put me in jail when it comes, you know? When the time comes and they start looking at everybody's Twitter and everybody's YouTube videos, there's going to be enough said in here to put me in prison. Because that's what it's going to come down to. You're going to be, the Bible says, if you don't comply, you're not going to be able to buy or sell. They're going to freeze your money. They have the power to freeze your accounts. They have if you're on food stamps, they're going to cut it off. If you have free health care, they're going to say you can't use it if you get sick. I mean, look at I don't know if you guys heard about what happened in California, but Gavin Newsom is threatening to turn people's electricity and water off if you don't comply with the COVID rules. I mean, think about that one. So if you think that they're not going to do it, they're already threatening to do it now. That's unbelievable. And people are going to still vote for this guy? I mean, you got to be literally insane, man. We live in a crazy world where, just again, like the Bible says, it'll be like Babylon. Confusion. That's what Babel means. Confusion. Because it comes from the Tower of Babel. You should know that, Akbar. Right? Where God confused the languages. That's where we get all the languages today. Not what the scientists say. They're always trying to trace it back to like one thing, and that's just not true. So that's what the Bible says it's going to be like in the last days, confusion. And even for me, who knows what's going on, it's confusing for me to look at things and I'm like going, what is going on? You don't know what's up, what's down, what's left, what's right. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so crazy out there. I just tell people, don't go crazy. Just think positive. You know? Just do whatever you can to make a positive difference wherever you can. That's all we can do, right? But I always tell people, read the Bible for yourself. Give it a chance. Don't be scared of it. Don't think it's going to cut into your lifestyle. Because you might be surprised at what you read and go, man, makes a lot of sense. And that's the miracle, really, about the Bible, because you could read it today, you could read it 2,000 years ago, and it would still be relevant to an individual's life. That's crazy. You know, it's not outdated in any sense. All the principles that it teaches, you can use today to better your life. All the principles that it teaches, you could have used 2,000 years ago to better your life. I mean, it's not outdated at all. All the wisdom in there transcends time. If you're a businessman, it'll help you become a better businessman. You know, if you're if you're a smart person, then you'll become a smarter person just from reading it. You know, if you're a hard worker, then you're even going to work better, you know, at what you do because you read the Bible. It's crazy, you know? It only improves whatever good attributes you have in you. It only amplifies them. And it also answers every question that you could possibly have. Now, I didn't believe that, actually. Hey, Herky, take care. I didn't believe that the Bible could answer every single question you could have for it. But today I believe it does. Just because I was reading some stuff recently and going, man, I can't believe this subject is talked about in the Bible. Like, as many times as I've read the Bible, I still find new things that I missed and new questions that are answered. It's pretty nuts. So, alright, well, I gotta get off. I've been on here for a while. I'm not sure what I'm gonna play next. I'm gonna give myself a little break. Maybe I'll get on some Skyrim. It's a little hot in here right now because it got really humid. But I don't know. I was thinking about starting maybe Horizon Zero Dawn. I've been wanting to play that. I also been wanting to play Become Human, Detroit Become Human. So I don't know. I might dabble into some of those games. I don't know if Akbar's still on here or not. I don't know, Akbar. If you want to play a co-op game, man, you know, you can let me know. I don't really do PvP, so I know you probably like doing PvP games, but I'd be happy to do any co-op game out there, even if I suck at it. And there's a lot, you know, I mean, there's a whole lot of games that are co-op. And games like Payday 2, The Forest, Serious Sam, what else? Dead Effect 2. Although I don't know if a non-VR player can play that with a VR player. I'm not sure about that one. But like Serious Sam, The Forest, what was the other one I said? Payday 2. VR players and desktop players can play together. So that's kind of cool. And possibly Dead Effect 2 VR, but I'm not sure about that one. I can't think of the other ones off the top of my head of what's cross-platform. So, but I would play desktop, that's fine too. You know, Warhammer Vermintide, I got that one. I have, what's that one called? Space Hawk. That's the Warhammer one where you're fighting aliens or something. I have that one. I got the Division 2. So if you just wanted to do like PvP questing for the Division, I have the Division 2. And this is for anybody. Anybody who wants to get on stream and co-op. I got Destiny 2. What's the other ones? Battlefield 5. Although I don't know if they have strictly co-op missions. But I do have Battlefield 5. I don't know. Dead Island, like I have Dead Island. You know, those, I would love to play those games. I haven't played them yet really with anyone. Dead Island 1 and 2. Left 4 Dead. Although I don't know if I'd be too good at that one. Yeah. So The invitation is out there for everyone. If you just want to co-op, just send me a message on my YouTube videos or through Steam. Or if you have my Discord, you can just pop a message there. It's not too active, you know, because I'm not really on it much. But I do look at it, so, you know, you could do that. All right, well, let me go. Thanks for stopping by. Everyone take care, be safe. Don't worry about COVID. It's not really as bad as they say it is. We already have proof of that now. Of course, the media is not talking about it. The Democrats aren't talking about it. The people on the left aren't talking about it. But the chances of dying from COVID is very small, even if you get it. So we already know that now. So you don't have to worry about it. You know, do what the government tells you to do, obviously, because you don't want to get your electricity turned off. I mean, eventually we will have to decide on whether we're going to sacrifice. But for COVID, nah, it's not worth wearing a mask. It's not worth getting your electric and water shut off. But when it starts getting into the territory of taking away your religious freedom, your individuality, you know, then we can protest. We can stand up and sacrifice and suffer, you know. And that's what Satan always uses to control people. He always uses the things that you love most. Your food, your water, you know, being comfortable, you know. This is why we should not get attached to the things of the world, because when they get threatened to take it away from us, we end up buckling at the knees and bowing down to those who are threatening to take away our comforts away. So I hope people can be stronger than that. And this is why it's important to believe in God, because if you have nothing else to hope for except for what this world has to offer, then you already lost the battle. You've already become a slave, basically, to the system. All right. Anyway, peace, everyone. Take care. Bye.